Welcome back to Summit Railway, everyone. It is a beautiful spring day, and as you can tell, today we are going to run some trains, but alongside with that we are going to tackle some minor projects, one of which is in regards to this and that shunting signal. As you can tell, they are way too close to the switch, so we need to move them forward a little bit. Alright, this signal is moved to its new position. A few minutes ago it was located down here, which made no sense because when a train pulled up to this signal on that at that position, no train would be able to go across here without touching the train which pulled up to the signal, if that makes sense. So now it is moved backwards and this should be no issue anymore. Same goes for that signal. This was more extreme. It was located right around here, which made no sense at all either, and now it's up here. And that brings me to this signal, which was located on the other side of the switch motor before. I moved it because I have some passenger coaches, and when they were riding along this switch, they were barely not scraping. We are talking about 3 to 5 millimeters, which is way too short of a distance to a fixed object. So I moved it from here to there. And now we can take a ride in this beautiful steam train along my nice railway line until we hit a few switches down here, which this particular locomotive has some issues with, but I will show you when we arrive. Now I can briefly show you the issue that I'm having with this locomotive on the upcoming switch. Watch close. As you might have noticed, the locomotive rides along the track and gets hung up right around here on the switch. And it's no problem with the wheel set of the locomotive, but with those power pickups right here, those get hung up. So what I will do to mitigate this problem is to take a file and do a little bit of filing right here But before we can do that, we need to press the stop button. And now the track has no power between the two rails, and we can safely work. I'm sure the difference is barely noticeable, but let's have a try if it works better. Have you noticed the difference? A tiny change and a lot of difference. The locomotive now runs smoothly across the switch. So I will do the same modification to all those different switches. Alright, the problem seems to be successfully resolved. Let's take our train and go back to the main station. We have arrived at the station, as you can tell. Track Inspector Sunny in the background is very happy with the progress so far. What we do next is those 3 passenger coaches have a slight problem when they are pushed back through that track across that switch, and on either of both switches it derails. We will push the cars down this track and we'll have a close look what happens there and if we can mitigate it. The train is in position, and when I remember right, it was this way out of the station, and we derailed either on that switch or that switch with this special kind of passenger wagon. Those are 3-axle wagons, so with 2-axle and 4-axle wagons I didn't have any problems. And here it is, right on the first try. I derailed this wagon and that wagon as well. So let me look what the problem is and see if I can solve it. I did a little investigation and figured out that this switch is totally fine. I got a problem with that switch at the frog. And since this is specific to those 3-axle carriages, I figured that they can pivot underneath, and they are pivoted for a right hand curve at the switch. Please focus. There we go. They are pivoted for this right hand curve at the switch, at the first switch, and then they run with the pivot angle still underneath the carriage. The first axle hits the frog and jumps over and derails. So that's the problem. I had several trial runs and figured out that it isn't the frog, it is the check rail. At this side, the wheel hits the front of this check wheel. So what I will do, I will use a file and try to thin it up a little bit, and then I try to bend it inward so it will catch the wheel like it's supposed to, and then feeds it to this rail. Can you see the bend I put in here at the check rail? That was the problem, I think, at least. The wheel came across here, and beforehand it was hitting the check rail and therefore was derailing. And now I pivot the check rail in, and the wheel will be catched and run right along the rail like it's supposed to. At least that's the theory. Let's test it out. Alright, here comes the train. The first passenger coach was never a problem, so I expect it to run smoothly across the switch. And now it gets interesting. Oh yeah, can you hear that? Maybe not, I turned the microphone around, but you can definitely hear a scraping sound where the check rail catches the wheel and turns it over. Now let's try it a little bit faster and in different ways, and if that works out, we are done with this project. It seems to work quite nice. Let's try it even faster. I'd call this problem solved, unless we find another one, of course. But now it works, and as you will see, the train is approaching, because what I want to show you, have a close look when the gap between the wagons is right here. There, have you seen the shift of the coupling? we can have another look. Right here, that was the initial problem. Because of that shift of the undercarriage, the wheel was hitting the check rail, and that caused the derailment. And with that, I guess that's it for today. We moved 3 signals to their final destination. We got the switch issue solved, which I'm very happy about, because that's the most important switch on the layout. It goes from the main line into all of the station. So if this switch acts up, I'm in a lot of trouble. And last but not least, we have also resolved the problem with the particular steam engine and those switches. It is resolved. It runs nice and smooth across those switches. So that's a huge success as well. On top of all that, we had some fun running the trains across the layout. So I hope you have enjoyed it as well, and we will see us in the next one. Bye.